Okay.
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, okay. So are we on the call?
You are. This is Matt, and
I assume that we are. I don't know. Sometimes it takes a minute or two, and I'm wondering if church ended exactly at.
yep, you're with us. This is Matt at Bethany. Can you both hear me?
Background now. We go better listen.
Okay.
Hi, callers on the phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Good. This is Matt, and you are with us live here in Bethany Sanctuary.
Hello, Matt.
How's the sound quality? Hi. Good morning. How's the sound quality on your side?
It's pretty good on ours.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems to be okay.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
So you're the only two callers on the line. Okay. Maybe Walt, if you could bump up your volume, maybe on your handset there. We'll do our best to try to talk nice and clearly and repeat any questions from the...
Okay, I have it all the way up.
Okay, is that any better?
I'm not sure. It's all right. I can hear you.
Okay, good, okay. All right, well, everyone, we will turn the microphone over to Katie Jackson, and Pastor Katie will introduce herself, and we will have the opportunity to learn about her a little bit more in detail and also ask her any questions that we have on our minds and hearts today. Pastor Jackson.
Okay, should I do the Verizon? Can you hear me now? I'm double mic'd for the call thing too, so I'm extra loud, so sorry about that. But anyway, my name is Katie Jackson. I'm originally from Ohio. Most of this you already heard once, so you don't need to hear it again. But I went to college for youth ministry and served as a youth minister for a little bit part-time and then full-time. That was my full-time job.
Is that quite loud enough? Can you get a little closer to yours? We'll bump up the volume a bit.
I'm used to church technology. No offense to anyone here, but I am. I know it never goes how you want it to go.
Is that any better for you on the phone?
I think I hear it now.
I put it on speakerphone and I think it helps.
All right. So I was a full-time youth minister for about 7.5 years at my church in New Bremen, Ohio. And I was also licensed for about the last 1.5 years that I was there, so able to do communion and baptisms and stuff like that. I left that church in New Bremen to attend seminary in Lancaster, and I graduated in May of 2019, and I got approved for ordination pending call in September of 2019, and I had my first interview with Bethany that October, and here we are, and it's July. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm so excited to be here. I was excited before I was allowed to apply for calls. I was excited about the the opening at Bethany. So I saw it a couple days after it was posted, and I was really sad that I couldn't just go ahead and apply then. So I was thrilled that, for me, not for you guys necessarily, thrilled for me that it was still open when I finally could apply. So, and I'm just really excited to be here. I've told a couple people already this morning, I have never had a fun job interview, and I had so much fun on a phone interview with the folks from Bethany that I thought, gosh, this might be the one for me. So, you know, you're a great audience. You laugh at my terrible jokes, and I appreciate that. But you're also funny and welcoming, and I've just felt so welcome, and that's what I think the church should be, and that's the kind of church that I want to be in. So, again, I can't believe I'm finally here and get to meet more people, and I won't recognize any of you because y'all have masks on, but whatever, we'll deal with it, right? So forgive me for that, but that you have masks on? I'm not laughing at that. That's not nice. So, I have a cat. I'm, single, don't have kids or anything like that. I do have a niece that's 10 and 2 nephews that are 9 and 4. They're my older sister's kids. And since I've been living in Ohio temporarily for, like, I don't know, 9 months or something, temporarily, I've gotten to spend a lot of time with them, and that's been awesome. My youngest, that's 4, he's almost 5, he turned 1 right after I moved to Lancaster, so I didn't really get to know him at all. And I mean, it's 500 miles from Lancaster to, we call it Wapak, but Wapakoneta. Who shortens their town name? We do, Wapak, it's easier. So it's been awesome to be able to be home, but I'm also ready to have a call and be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and not, right now I am working at Honda Transmission Manufacturing in Russells Point, Ohio, and if this means anything to you, I'm on the transfer case line, so I'm assembling transfer cases for 4-wheel drive cars for Hondas and Acuras. It's not awesome. I'm not a fan. It's fine, I get paid. Thank goodness I get paid, but I'm so over it. Yeah, but anyway, so if you have any questions for me about anything, I mean, ask me anything, and I may or may not answer. But I really, what I want from this is for you to get a sense of who I am and to feel like you know me well enough to make a decision if you'd like me to be your pastor or not. I would like to, but it's your choice. So.
Do you have any questions from the congregation here? Let me just check with them on the phone, Katie. For you on the phone, do you have any questions you'd like to specifically ask Pastor Jackson?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll get to meet you in person and not via conference call at some point, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Kathy, would you like to ask questions to Pastor Jackson?
Well, my question may be a little bit long. Were there questions from the congregation?
They're waiting for you to break the ice.
So you can do that, Kathy.
Okay. Let me break it. And everybody knows where I live, so I'll be waiting for, I don't know, explosives on my porch maybe if this doesn't go well. But I think, Pastor Katie, as Walt expressed, these are really, really difficult times for everybody. Certainly difficult enough with COVID-19 and all that whole mess. But there's not a day that goes by in the last almost 2 months that I have to turn the television off because I can hardly stand to see what's on the news. And I believe possibly like a lot of our congregation, but maybe not so many. I just retired about a year ago, so I am middle 60s. I grew up in York, Pennsylvania, which was inner city. For those of us that are native to Lancaster County, it's kind of comparable to, would have been comparable to going to high school at McCaskey. And I attended high school late in the 60s, graduated in 72, and unfortunately was there during the middle of the late 60 racial riots. I could see properties being burned from my front porch. I went to high school locked in with cops and police dogs in the school for quite a while, my sophomore year. And while I am a firm believer in everyone deserving a chance, that God has created all of us equal, I am also a firm believer in having respect for our military, absolutely respect for our police officers. I know that police are no different than any other profession. Whether it's a nurse, a physician, a teacher, a banker, a lawyer, there are bad apples in every single profession. And I guess, Katie, I will put you on the spot by asking you what your thoughts are on all of this, because it seems to me no matter what your individual skin color is, depending on what news you look at or what news you hear, you cannot get away from this racial issue in our country right now. And I would like to hear your perspective on how you think the church could finally impact that. I think if we do call you to this position, you will understand that we are a completely Caucasian congregation. And I'm just wondering where you stand on things, because yes, while I think all people are created equally and should be treated well and should treat each other well, that the church has to help to step forward and not only welcome blacks, Hispanics, whoever, but I think we also need to stand up for some of our Caucasian population too.
Not taking it easy on me, right? That's fine. No, that's fine.
That's the softball question.
That was it? Okay. Well, I quit softball after 8th grade, so that's not good. No, I appreciate and hear your concern and your angst, and I agree that watching the news is really painful, and I try to avoid it. But I'm lucky that I can avoid it, and a lot of it I'm not living right now. And there's a ton that I want to say, but what I want to say most of all is the most important thing to me, and I think the most important thing about all of this for our congregations and for our families and for our friends is that we keep talking, but we also keep listening. We have to listen. People are being killed in the streets and in prisons, and if we're okay with that, there's a problem. So regardless of anything, I am a firm believer in it. I know I don't know everything, and I know that my experience is limited, and I know that I deal with challenges and stuff that other people don't, and I know that I have advantages because I'm white. I do. And I know not everybody likes to hear that, and that's fine, and we can disagree or whatever on anything I say, that's fine. But please know that I want to keep talking about it, because me just telling you what I think is really dangerous, because I might not be able to say what I mean. You might not hear what I'm trying to say. So when lives are at stake, you know, it's really important for me that it's a conversation and not just me telling you what I believe, but I also want you to know that I don't plan to tell you what you should believe. I'll be honest with you about what I believe, but I in my time in youth ministry, one of my main values that I tried to cultivate in the church, and especially in my students, was this curiosity and this desire to learn and this openness to different people's experiences and different perspectives. So all of that being said, I don't think it's the pastor's job to tell you what to believe. I think your pastor's there to walk with you and help you in the way and serve you in the way that you need served. So, and this is the issue weighing on a lot of people, a lot of this stuff. So, what I will say too, I think it's important for you all to know about me is that my upbringing, grew up in a very, very small town, 1,200 people or so, not a lot of diversity at all. And then when I hit 6th grade, I went to Wapak and Etta, for middle school and high school, and it's a city of about 9,000 people, but even less diverse. So coming to Lancaster and I lived on campus at the seminary, was an education in and of itself, because I didn't have any friends that didn't look like me, or hardly any. So one of the things, especially my first year of seminary, I sat in a room where I don't want to say outnumbered, but I was outnumbered by people that didn't look like me. It had never happened in my life. And and I had a choice at that moment. Was I going to listen to what I didn't know, or was I just going to talk? And that first year of seminary, I had to deal with some really painful learned thoughts and learned, just knee-jerk reactions to things. So what I think we shouldn't do is, what I think is a dangerous thing to do is assume that you know somebody else's reality, because we can't know that. And we really should keep trying to learn, and reading books is really helpful. If you're a podcast person, there's all kinds of great podcasts and stuff. I recently heard a quote. I have no idea where it was from. I don't know, but it really was meaningful to me, and it's something I've remembered. And especially when politics have divided us, racial tensions have divided us, we're divided because we're at home alone, or, if you can't understand, if you can't see where someone that disagrees with you is coming from, if you can't recognize why they think that way, then you might be the problem. So what I work on in myself is trying to, I can see why you think that way. Either we can have a conversation about it or we can't. But I think as white folks, I have a responsibility to keep learning, because there's things that I just don't live through, and I've never had to experience, and I won't. So, that might not be exactly what you would want to hear, but I really just want to be honest with you about where I'm at. But for me, my faith comes before any political issue or anything like that. And my faith is what kind of drives my politics, or drives, my opinions, as much as I can do that. So what I will say specifically about Black Lives Matter is, I took a Black theologizing class in seminary taught by the Right Reverend Nathan Baxter, former dean of the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Epic. It was epic. But I also took a civil rights class with him, and he's an African American man, and again, I was one of 2 to 3 white people in the classroom. So talk about a shift, and we're still talking about stuff that might never affect me, and I can leave the room and I don't ever have to think about it again. But when somebody's wearing that skin, they're always wearing it, and they can't get away from it. And so Black Lives Matter, it's been co-opted. There's a lack of understanding, and part of that is because the movement is designed to not have the leader in front. There's no Martin Luther King Jr. equivalent in the movement, and that's why it's confusing to people. So what I would recommend, if that is something specifically, just to understand what the point is, get on their website and read. listening to news and commentary about it isn't going to be as helpful as going to the source. If you know somebody who has a Black Lives Matter sign in their yard or whatever, or their Facebook profile picture, whatever, talk to them and find out what it's about. Because I'm hesitant to say I support Black Lives Matter because I don't know what that means to everybody else. I know what it means to me because I know, and to make, if this is the axe for me, that's fine. But I will say, to me, Black lives have not always mattered, and that's why we say Black Lives Matter. So, and they specifically chose Black Lives Matter because it seems that Black lives matter the least in our society. So I get a little emotional about it. So I have strong opinions and strong feelings, but I don't stop learning, and I will talk to anybody about pretty much anything. But again, I think the most important thing I can reiterate is that when we stop learning, there's a problem. When we stop talking to people, there's a problem. When we just can't understand where they're coming from, there's a problem. So I hope that helps. You kind of know where I'm at. And I mean,
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that was very helpful. And I will tell you that some of my best friends throughout my life have been people who are not Caucasian. And sometimes I think that Bethany could really benefit if we started to mix our congregation, because I think we have a lot to learn from each other. But thank you. I do have a better sense of how you feel about this.
yeah. I mean, it was rough, but thank you for asking. I mean, you might as well just ask a hard question. You might as well just do it now, right? So, thank you.
Any questions from the congregation? Lenny, could you come up to the microphone?
Where do you want me to go?
To the microphone so we can capture it.
I'd hand you mine, but I don't have a mask on.
Kind of glad I have this mask on because you can't see me smiling ear to ear right now. Because I have you in a really good spot here. You talked about divisions, okay? And some people in this church are driven by different things. So to get to my question rather quickly, are you an Ohio State football fan?
I think you're going to like the answer that I give you. I'm assuming. I'm making an assumption. I could not possibly care less about football,
Thank you.
and I could not possibly care less about Ohio State. Don't care. Don't care. So there, and that's the truth. I don't care. I don't own Ohio State stuff. I don't care.
Good, Dale.
Hi, I'm Jill, and I am smiling ear to ear because I have a son who moved to Ohio in Circleville area. So I have a Penn State husband and now a kid who's learning about Ohio State. So we have some interesting family conversations. But my question is, I am a nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
I work at Lancaster General, and so my vision of what's been happening over the last several months is that's my reality. I haven't been sheltered at home. I'm in the thick of things. And I also agree with Kathy that the world's turned upside down and it's created anxiety and fear and a lot of mistruths. You know, the news, you don't know what to believe anymore. You don't. And so as we move forward, if we have any hope of getting back to our new normal, we really are going to need to have these conversations that you brought up and keep learning. And fighting about it on Facebook, which I've seen a lot of our congregation doing, is a really, really negative, horrible thing to our beloved Bethany, and I see it every day. So as a new pastor, we need to heal from that, and we need to call it out and have the hard conversations. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but we are going to need, in my opinion, someone to help facilitate those conversations and growth. And I wondered what your response would be to that.
Right on. Yes. So part of my job as a youth minister was to facilitate conversations every week with teenagers. And let me tell you, sometimes that's really difficult. So one of the things that I'm interested in doing is some maybe book studies if people are interested. Since I was in seminary and then graduated, but I've done a lot of reading books by authors that don't look like me. So I've got some reading suggestions. They're not easy, and sometimes they're really painful, and there's a couple that I could not do it. But I think when we can, for me starting out, it would be really difficult to know, I don't know you. So I don't know, you don't know me, so one of the biggest parts of a conversation is trusting each other. So building that trust, getting to know you is going to be integral to being able to have those hard conversations. Because I know, I've seen people get defensive. I've seen them just in a classroom talking about random stuff, let alone, important life-altering stuff. So, but those are conversations that I want to have, and I totally agree about the Facebook thing, because it never works out well for anyone. I don't argue with people I know, I argue with strangers sometimes, and I've decided to just, it's not worth it. I'm not going to change their mind, and if they don't believe in science, that's their problem, right? So, but anyway, I think it is imperative that we together figure out ways to have conversations and to work on our own stuff, our own baggage, our own learnings and stuff, if that's something you want to do. But I think having trust and building a rapport with you would be a priority before doing any of that, like in a formalized group setting, something like that. But I think it's really important, and I really like the idea of a book study, because I think it's helpful when you have a common starting point of a text to deal with. But I don't know. What did he say?
I think we've done that in the past as well.
Okay. But I would welcome suggestions, because what I don't want to do is come in and tell you how to fix it, and tell you how to fix yourselves. I don't even know what's wrong with you, really. Come on. So that's not going to work. But
I've got a question.
yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna have trouble getting back.
If you want to stay there, I can say it.
No.
Okay. Oh, here's Matt. He's got you.
They want me to be loud. I thought I wasn't supposed to touch that.
Well, don't hold it.
Don't touch it, just let him hold it for you.
Okay. There's a lot of us that are very mature. Some of us are even considered old. But it's going to be hard for me to accept your young ideas, because I'm sure you're going to have a lot that I don't agree with. And I'm sure you're not going to agree with me, other than I would love to have you come and pull my weeds.
That's a dangerous game.
No, because I don't like the flowers or the weeds, so you'd be fine.
Just pull it every.
No, I'm serious. It's
Yeah.
some of us are so set in our ways. How much are you going to talk to us older people to maybe want to change us?
I mean, how bad is it? No, for me, it's always an invitation. It's not a demand. It's an invitation and a conversation. So I can speak from my own experience with a congregation, we have a chapel and a sanctuary, and a family donated the curtain behind the altar in the chapel, and they painted the walls, and it looked awful together, so they were going to get a new piece of cloth, and it's still there, the one that doesn't match, because there was an uproar. So even things like that might seem petty to some people are not, and it wasn't necessarily people that are older than me that were having a problem with it. But I mean, there's that kind of church stuff to deal with that we can agree and disagree on. But again, it's your building, you're here before me, so about anything really difficult or political or whatever, I welcome the conversation, I invite the conversation. What I want to do is understand. And I mean, I have grandparents. They're older than me too, oddly enough. They are. I mean, you know, the United Church of Christ is not a lot of young folks. And yeah, I worked with youth, but I mean, my oldest volunteer when she retired was 84. So, you know, and she didn't like a lot of what we did because we had fun at church, and that was a problem for her. But I just tried to listen and understand where she was coming from, and then I could explain my viewpoint. So the pastor doesn't do the changing, God does the changing. And if you feel it in your heart to change, that's fine. It can be really scary. I mean, I talked about it in the sermon today. Change is a risk. And, you know, if we're not changing, if we're not learning, then what is our faith and what are we doing? So, we can talk about stuff. I'm not going to ask you to, now if you're like graffitiing the side of the church, we're going to have a conversation about that, and we're going to have to change that behavior. But, you know, there's a lot of internal stuff that maybe we don't realize we have sometimes that isn't good for us, isn't good for anybody else. But I mean, it's not, I don't know. Like I said, an invitation and a conversation is always where I revert to. Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And the weeds?
And the weeds.
And the weeds, perfect. So thank you. Thanks for asking. That's a good question. I did do, just so you all know, I did do a unit of clinical pastoral education. It's called CPE at Phoebe Ministries in Wernersville. And then I had like classes during it in Allentown. It was a horrific summer of driving, but I've done ministry with people who are older than me. I mean, probably most of my life, you know, in addition to the youth stuff. So I'm not afraid of you, if that helps. I don't know. You don't have to change if you don't want to. That's fine. Okay, fair enough.
I get orders every time.
Any other questions here in the sanctuary? Amanda?
Did you notice I used the word behave?
I'm listening to the question and answers of Katie right now. It's on the phone.
Hi, we've met
Hi.
already.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name's Amanda. I like to sing.
Yeah, like question and answer like Monday night will be.
What?
I think she's talking to somebody else.
Okay. My question is, I'm just curious about your views on the style of worship. We like to have what we call a blended worship style. Personally, as the music director, I believe in honoring the traditions of the past and carrying some of that forward, and at the same time kind of blending in new ideas, new styles of music. So I really try to honor a variety of things during worship. It seems to me like that might be something that more than just myself in the congregation would be interested in on what your views are in regard to maybe integrating different styles of worship while still maintaining our traditions of liturgy. That makes sense.
So my church membership is at a German Reformed Heritage Church. So our pulpit is up 5 or 6 stairs, and it's It's like nosebleed level high, very, very reformed, very traditional. And I also did my field ed in at my second year of seminary at First Reformed downtown in Lancaster, and it's First Reformed. It's traditional, organ and everything. So all of that being said, I know I'm sort of young and that's fine, but I very much value, enjoy, and prefer an organ and a piano. I don't like a lot of like modern kind of praise music stuff. I don't care. I don't like screens and I'm not a screen person. Like I still prefer to have the thing. I know, and sometimes it's really helpful, and I've read some stuff about how visitors coming in, how it's really helpful for them to kind of get oriented if you've got announcements and stuff up there. So maybe worship isn't all about me. I don't know, but it's not something I want. But again, an invitation and a conversation. We can talk about it. But I love hymns, but I was in choir, so like I can read the music, so that helps. And not everybody does that. A lot of people think it's really boring music, and I'm sad for them, but they're allowed to feel that way, whatever. But I think it's one of the most important things I want to say is that whenever you have somebody new come in to lead worship for a week or whatever, things are going to change. There is inherent change with new leadership. So if you're thinking I'm going to come in and everything's going to stay the same, it can't be, because I'm not, whoever came before me. So what there's no big thing that I think we got to change it, and we got to change it immediately. One of the most important things for me is that I don't come in and, like, I wouldn't come into a church and when I started with my youth groups, I didn't come in and make a bunch of changes. I think it takes at least a year to get integrated and to really get to know people and get a sense of where we should go, and that could be outside of worship, So I'd really love to, of course, hopefully I'll be talking to you more about what we're doing and everything, And I mean, I've had people make paper airplanes during a sermon and then throw them around the church. It was a long time ago, but I did it because I was a youth minister and I could. I've painted during a service, during the sermon. Part of my sermon was the painting. I had, I think, 5 or 6 students paint during the sermon. I'm trying to think what else I've done. Not a lot of wacky stuff, but some of it. But if it suits the message, then I'll do it. But it's not like I feel like I have to innovate. So, because it's about the community being here together, and it's not so much about me putting on a show or you putting on a show for somebody. So, but no, I hear you, and we can talk about it. And I know that especially music during worship is sometimes very contentious, and it's very personal. So it's not a conversation I haven't had before with other people in other churches. So, yeah. But yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, I hope that answers your.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Cool.
you very much.
Just going to check in with the people on the phone. We have about 15 minutes before the Blue Ridge worship service is aired. So,
Gotcha.
for our callers on the phone, are there any other questions you'd like to pose to Pastor Jackson? All right, I'll take that as a no. Katie, let me go to the microphone.
Thank you.
Katie, in follow-up to Amanda's question about the music, style of worship, things like that, for the people that are here and on the phone, Katie picked the hymns for the service today. And I thought that was a nice way for her to put her fingerprint on the service. And maybe in follow-up to that, there are some standards, and you can talk a little bit, Katie, about why they're important to you and, why they're moving to you.
Okay.
Matter.
So we sang Holy, Holy, Holy. Morning Has Broken. What else did we sing?
How firm a foundation.
How Firm a Foundation. And then was Be Thou My Vision. Is that for tomorrow?
Yeah, that's for, I say that it's the anthem.
That's right. Okay. So that was one of my choices. So thinking about, what I really thought about was what I wanted to sing. And then I remembered I couldn't sing, and I was really sad. So I love to sing. I started in choir in 5th grade, and I went all the way through to 12th grade, and our choir was competitive. We were actually pretty good. I did some ensembles in high school and got little medals and whatever. Not a soloist though, but you're welcome for that. But How Firm a Foundation and Holy, Holy, Holy and Morning Has Broken, I think the main thread within them is hope. They sound hopeful to me and optimistic, and I felt optimistic coming back to Bethany since I was here in January. So it was more, not so much lyrical as just the feeling that I get from those hymns. And I am excited that someday we'll all get to sing together. But Amanda, awesome, right? So, thank you. So at least we still get to hear somebody singing. I started attending church in high school. I didn't grow up in a church or anything like that. So all of the hymns were introduced to me as a 16-year-old in a choir person, reading the music and learning the songs. So I think that might make a difference for me of what I like. And churches have their own favorites, so some of the ones that you sing all the time I may have never heard or anything. But I always appreciate the beauty of music, and Amanda kind of said it. I love thinking about the person writing the hymn, usually, or sometimes they have a different person writing the lyrics than the melody or whatever. But I just love to think about the generations of people that have sung these same songs, and how it's just so cool to think, and I know Bethany's like 290 years old, which is just crazy for small town Ohio. Like, I get excited about like 100-year-old thing, but it's just so neat to me to think about who has sung these songs and what they've meant to them. I really like that. But yeah, I think for today, it was the hopefulness and the optimism in those songs, and just ones I really miss singing. But maybe I'll sing them in the car on the way home or something, and then nobody has to hear it. But yeah, I don't remember what else I picked for tomorrow's recording.
It is well with my soul.
Okay.
I think Be Thou My Vision.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my other favorites that I can't remember now.
You might want to repeat it for the people.
Oh, so tomorrow's Be Thou My Vision, It Is Well With My Soul,
There's
and
another one that I was like, these are my 3 favorite hymns that she just picked.
well, we'll figure it out tomorrow. We don't. It's in there, but I have a lot of ones that I really like. But I don't know, Holy, Holy, Holy. For me, I had. I remember specifically singing that one out of the old UCC red hymnal. I don't know if you guys had the old red, dude. Well, we had it for a while at my church in New Bremen, and I happened to be sitting right in front of the organ on a Sunday morning, and they have, like yours, gorgeous, gorgeous stained glass windows, and just having this moment. So I don't know why, I always think of that, and it's real early. It's like a low number. It's like number 13 or something in that red hymnal. And I don't remember specifically singing like a specific event of a lot of hymns, but that one I remember. I don't know, I just always loved Holy, Holy, Holy. Yeah. Anything? You can ask anything. Or nothing.
So we have maybe 10 minutes left, Katie. I'll throw you a sort of medium softball. And I don't want to steal from a potential future sermon, but I always find the path from where you were to where you are today to be compelling. You know, having been drawn to this call and occupation, you can continue to assemble transmissions, but you're not. You don't want to. And so the why in that and how you got to, you know, be standing there with two microphones is always interesting to me. And maybe you could do that for us as a closer.
Okay. We good? We good now? Okay. Like I just said, I didn't start attending church until I was 16. Something's off. Are we good? Can you hear me? Okay. I had a great relationship with neighbors that lived in the house right next door. Their driveway was right between our houses. And I mean, my parents are non-religious, but they're fun, they're supportive, so supportive of me, which I really appreciate. So I started going to church finally when I was 16 because I knew they have a son that is 7 years older than me, and he taught me how to play basketball, and he was just awesome, like the older brother I never would have. And he and his fiance at the time were going to take over the youth ministry at the Methodist church in my town. So knowing that Jeff and Melanie were going to be taking over, finally, after many invitations, I went, and one of the things that they did was go to, it's called Otterbein, it's like a senior living center. They would go once a month and do activities with a lot of dementia, Alzheimer's patients in the memory unit. And that kind of got me thinking about what I would do if I was, would have been doing if I wasn't there, and I would have been doing whatever I wanted, but not making a difference for anybody, not helping anybody, not, you know. So that kind of kept me there. I really, I felt, because of my connection with my neighbors and that family, they really were my second family and still kind of are. The community is what got me there, and the community is what kept me there. I was able to travel to Savannah, Georgia, that summer, the summer before my junior year of high school, for a mission trip, and we thought we were going to be doing work, and we ended up in a nursing home doing activities and visiting residents in our overalls and stuff. Not at all what we expected to be doing, and it was really challenging. It was kind of miserable because it was so emotional, because these people had, a lot of them didn't have visitors. It was like a lower income home, so it wasn't very nice. And I made a decision. We were doing a craft, and I made a decision. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm just going to do the craft and move them on, and do the craft and move them on. It was not my finest hour, but I was like a teenager, so what do you expect? But I can reflect on that and understand how I didn't really do a lot of good. I was like, oh, we did this thing at this nursing home. Isn't that nice? But I had a lot of really big moments on that trip, and one of them was we had these encouraging notes that we would get, and the guy's name was Gideon. He was on the staff at the site, and he wrote me a note to keep loving and keep serving. And it was the light bulb, so this is what this is all about. It's not what I believe, and it's an action thing. It's how I act and how I am involved in the world. And it wasn't that eloquent, maybe, I don't know, but it wasn't just go to church on Sunday and believe these things and then go about your business. And that's when that random man changed my faith, really. So I started attending college then, and I went to church every week and went to church camps and stuff, and that was fun, and had a generally good experience at the church as a high schooler. And I started school to be a mechanical engineer. And that did not last super long because, you have to like try. And I didn't want to do that. So it was between dropping out, changing to this technology major that was kind of engineering without all of the really hard classes. I don't know what I would have done with that degree, but my youth ministers had attended an event at Ohio Northern where I went to school. They had just started their youth ministry major, and they went up to kind of hear about it because it's a Methodist affiliated school. It was a Methodist church. And they gave me the paperwork and said, Katie, we really think that you should think about that. And I'm like, I'm going to be an engineer. I don't want leave me alone. Well, they were right, unfortunately, or fortunately. So I changed my major to youth ministry, and college was rough, it was not fun, it was not any sort of anything stereotypical at all. I was kind of miserable, but knew that I had to at least get a degree. I already paid for part of it. I needed to just go ahead and get a degree. So I stuck it out, and more than anything, I knew I had a call to youth ministry specifically, and that no matter all of the junk that was going on or the struggles that I was having, that's what I was going to do. So I graduated and got my 10-hour-a-week youth ministry job, and on the way to full-time, and never was going to go back to school, and had zero interest in seminary. And for a long time, I had zero interest in being a pastor, and you couldn't get me near a pulpit, let alone if I had to make an announcement, I would be panicked about it. So tell God, what's that thing, that stereotype that tell God what you're going to do in a lavvy or whatever, I don't know, tell God your plans, I don't know. But I told God and everybody else, no, I'm not going to seminary, I'm not going back to school, I don't want to be a pastor, I love my job, it's not something that interests me at all. But the more I got the opportunity to preach, and the more other members of the congregation who weren't involved in the youth ministry got to know me, the more encouraged I felt like maybe I do have something to offer, to not just focus on the youth. I love them, and I miss my kids, but I also know they graduate and they go, so it's never the same. But God has called me to additional things. So I went to Lancaster Seminary because I had a friend in the Ohio Conference that I have a ton of respect for, and I was really impressed by him as a minister. And I visited one other seminary, and it was a terrible, terrible experience. And I knew, with 10 minutes in, that I was not going to go there. But I decided if Lancaster wasn't for me, then seminary wasn't for me. Well, here we are. You know how that story ends. So I visited, and I loved it, and it was a big risk. It was a 500-mile move. I had lived in the same 2 counties my entire life, but I felt like if I was going to go to seminary, I needed to go to seminary to get the most out of it and not have family responsibilities as much, and and cut ties, but go. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And actually, Joyce Euler is the one that told me I should, because you know her. She is the one that said, if you can go to seminary, Katie, go to seminary. So I forgot about that till just now. But yeah, so here I am, and I really enjoyed living in Lancaster, and I enjoy the area, and it's beautiful, and I live in super flat, you can see for miles, Ohio, so I just love that even if everything else is bad, and even if I'm really stressed, I can go for a drive, and it's like, oh, beautiful. Just love that. And I loved, even driving back Friday, it's beautiful. And I feel like I have connections here with people. I feel like I have support here to be able to do ministry long term, that if I just moved randomly somewhere else and had to meet new people, all new people, that it wouldn't go as well. So, and I feel like I owe a congregation my time, a longer term than just a year or two. So, yeah. Any questions about that?
Katie and the callers on the phone, thank you for joining us this morning. That was great. That went exactly the way I hoped it would. And so I think we all got a chance to hear a little bit more about Katie and see inside her a little bit better. So thank you for the callers on the phone. We'll tune out here so you can catch the Blue Ridge broadcast. And we will have another opportunity to do a town hall similar to this tomorrow night at 6:30. So thank you. Have a great week. And we'll see you all soon, or hear from you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you all for being here.
All right.
Go with blessing.